Greetings, Michael DDA here. Thank you for joining me. Let's see if I can get myself centered on this camera. And my chair always sinks. I'm a little taller. Such a deal. Okay. Last 2 weeks we covered Genesis 15 and 16. The last thing we read on and Yasher was the crossing of the Red Sea. And, well, here's the last verse we read. And all Israel sang in concert. Remember, this is the men who are singing to Yehovah, saying, I will sing to Yehovah, for he has greatly exalted. The horse and his rider he has cast into the sea. Behold, it is written in the law of Elohim. Then we were supposed to read 15 and 16. We did both of those. And now 15 was talking about our travels after we went to the Red Sea. 16 was talking about the manna that was in the wilderness that Yehovah started sending in the morning, and the doves, not the doves, it was the quail that Yehovah sent in the evening for us to eat. So we're going to pick it up on 45 and finish this chapter, I think. It says, after this, Israel's seed proceeded on their journey and encamped at Marah. Remember, Marah was the place where the bitter waters were. Yehovah showed Moses a branch that he threw into the bitter waters, and it made the waters better. The bitter waters got bitter. And Yehovah gave Israel's seed statutes and judgments. I want you to understand, and I work really hard to help us understand that Israel's seed, they say the children of Israel. Folks, we've got to get beyond that. When I was a boy, it said the men of Israel, or the sons of Israel, I guess it said, often in the scriptures, but that was wrong too. And now most translations have made it the children of Israel, so we have no idea what we're talking about. Israel's seed is what I think, if you will latch onto these understandings, Israel's seed are spiritually born men. Remember, what did it say? Oh, I've got it in here. We're going to read it today. I'm not going to say that because we're going to talk about it. In fact, let's continue this conversation a little bit later because I do have it in Torah this morning. We're going to talk about it. So let me continue reading. After this, Israel's seed proceeded on their journey and encamped at Marah. And Yehovah gave Israel's seed statutes and judgments. Remember, he said, if you'll keep my statutes and my judgments, it will be health to your body. You won't miscarriage. In that place in Marah. And Yehovah commanded Israel's seed to walk in all his ways and to serve him. Then we went from Marah to Elim. And in Elim were 12 springs of water. Look at it, said wells of water in our New King James. But I knew it was springs because of the word it used, and springs of water and 70 date trees. And Israel's seed encamped there by the waters. And they journeyed from Elim to the wilderness of Sin on the 15th day of the second month. This is what we read last week in Exodus 16 after their departure from Egypt. At that time, Yehovah gave manna to Israel's seed to eat. And Yehovah caused food to rain from heaven heaven for Israel's seed day by day. Remember, it was the men, not the ladies, not the ger, not the children. It was the men who were required to go out and forage the manna each morning. 6 days we got it, and on the seventh day there was no manna. And Israel's seed ate the manna for 40 years. All the days that they were in the wilderness until they came to the land of Canaan to possess it. And they proceeded from the wilderness of Sin and encamped at Alush. Torah doesn't even talk about Alush. And Numbers talks about Alush and several other places that Exodus doesn't mention, which I think is interesting. Now, it says we're supposed to read Exodus 17. I am going to go straight through this to the end of the chapter because we're going to see that the second half of Exodus 17 is about Amalek, the Amalekites, coming against Israel at Rephidim. And the reason I'm going to do this first, rather than talk about 17 starts with the water. We're thirsty. We got to Rephidim and we're thirsty. We don't have any water. And when we got to Rephidim, there wasn't water. But Torah is not necessarily always chronological. The second half of chapter 17, I think, happened before the first half of Exodus 17. So I want to read this so that we have some better understanding. And then we're going to go through chapter 17 today. So look what it says. And they proceeded from Alush and encamped at Rephidim. And Israel's seed were in and when Israel's seed were in Rephidim, Amalek, son of Eliphaz, son of Esau, brother of Zepho, came to fight with Israel. You know what? Because of my notes, I'm going to go to the second half of I always have to decide what is the easiest way for me to communicate this information. We're going to finish this chapter with these words. Remember what Amalek has done to thee in the road when thou went forth from Egypt, who met thee in the road and smote thy rear. He met us on the road and smote our rear, even those who were feeble behind thee, when thou wast faint and weary. We are thirsty. We've been traveling for a number of days, and the Amalekites are coming up on us. We're all going to cover the same material today, but I'm going to go back to Torah. And we're going to do the second part of 17 before the first part of 17. I know this is a little unusual. I don't do this very often. But I want to go down to here. It says, now the Amalekites came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. We have the water, up here. It's going to talk about the rock at Horeb and how he hit the rock and we're going to get water. But we got here and we didn't have any water. We were weak. We just said that we are traveling and we were weak and thirsty. Who are the Amalekites? These are things that we have to ask ourselves. As I said, this is what we just read. Remember what Amalek has done to thee in the road when thou wentest forth from Egypt, who met thee in the road and smote thy rear. See, the strong part of our force is going forward. The weaker part of our force is coming behind us. Then they attacked us in the rear. Who's Amalek? Amalek is a son of Eliphaz, who's a son of Esau. Keep in mind, we got two groups of people, Jacob and Esau, the man of the flesh versus the man of the spirit, the one who dwells on earth, the one who dwells in heaven, physically born, spiritually born. This dichotomy began in Genesis 25. Look what it says here. Oh, is it not 25? Uh-oh. Oh, yeah, it's 25. Here it is. So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field. But Jacob was a mild man, dwelling in tents. You know, you read that, and it makes it sound like Jacob is a sissy boy. Esau, man's man. But it's because we lack understanding, and I think because the publishers, the owners of the publishing companies, want to make sure that you don't understand who Jacob actually is. Jacob is called a Tom man. Tom man. Here's the word. Where's the word? Go past it already. Oh, I haven't gone to the verse yet. There we go. Here, Tom man. This is him right here, Tom man. Here is the word Tom is the word being used to describe Jacob. Listen to what it means. It means whole. He's created in Yehovah's image and in his likeness. Someone or something that is whole, complete, or full. One who is mature and upright as one who is whole. Tom means integrity and completeness. Esau was a designing and deceitful man. Here, this is kind of my interpretation of what it actually is saying. Esau was a mild and oh no, this is Yasher. Look at what it says. This is so good. And Isaac, the son of Abraham, was 60 years old when he begat them. And the boys grew up to 15 years, and they came amongst the society of men. Esau was a designing and deceitful man. And look what it says about Jacob. An expert hunter of the field. And Jacob was a man perfect and wise, dwelling in tents, feeding flocks, and learning the instructions of Yehovah. This word, dwelling in tents, is a plural form. It's ohelim. If you dwell in a tent, it would be ohel. But this is a plural of ohel, which is ohelim. He is dwelling in the big top. This is not multiple tents. This is the big tent. Now, for those of you who have been trained watching NASA and learning the globe in all of our schools, we're about to come to new understandings in the earth. We live on a flat earth. and dwelling in the big top is what Jacob was doing. Oh, we have learned so many lies, you guys. We're going to talk about a bunch of those lies today as we go through some of these things. I think that we still have the same dichotomy going. Jacob's sons learning righteousness and Esau's seed deceiving the rest of the world. Unfortunately, Jacob's sons teaching righteousness hasn't been received well because we've all been programmed by the deep state, the Khazarians, dare I say, the sons and descendants, seed of Esau, just like the Amalekites were. We've got to learn something new if we want to progress. I have a shirt that says truth over traditions. I want to learn truth and forsake their traditions. We've learned lies. We've inherited lies, worthless and unprofitable things. And I know talking about flat earth may drive you crazy, but it's because you haven't studied it. You don't know. I'm talking about Israel's seed, not the children of Israel. I'm talking about men going into the temple. Ladies don't go into the temple. Ladies don't go to war. Men go to war. But we see so much out there. Ladies, they've got all the steel gear protecting their the breastplates and spears and arrows and shields. Ladies, don't go to war. You're being played. Just like you've been played just like we have all been played for hundreds of years. Only it's gotten really bad here recently. Welcome, Wayne. Welcome, Nancy. I'm so glad you guys made it. So there's this dichotomy going on. We got attacked by the Amalekites when we were going to Rephidim, to Yehovah's mountain. Elohim. The Elohim's mountain. Those wicked men from the Amalekites came and attacked our rear. Did we do anything to provoke them? Or is it just the natural inclination of these wicked men to destroy Yehovah's people? I think it's the latter. They attacked us in the rear, unprovoked. We were thirsty. We hadn't gotten the rock on Horeb yet. We were still in our road. We were still in the road. Remember what it said here. Let's look at it again. Where'd it go? Oh, I'm on the wrong verse. I guess I said what I wanted to say about Jacob and Esau. We have been fighting with one another for years. Oh, I want to go down here. There we go. Okay, so here we have Amalek is a man and the Amalekites are his people. Amalek and Zepho are brothers, but from different women. Look what it says in 36 of Genesis, talking about Esau's seed is what most of this chapter is about. It's got a lot of inconsistencies, but I think that this particular verse is all right. It said, and Eliphaz's seed were Timnah, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Now Timnah was a concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bore Amalek to Eliphaz. Amalek is a son of Eliphaz, a son of Esau. Do you remember? Let me read this. This is Yasher. And when Israel's seed were in Rephidim, Amalek, the son of Eliphaz, the son of Esau, the brother of Zepho. Oh, so interesting. Do you remember Zepho? We saw him a lot as we've been going through Torah and Exodus. Zepho, if you will recall, when we buried Jacob, Esau came to prevent us from using the cave where Abraham had been buried, the cave at Machpelah. And we had a big brouhaha. And it was one of Jacob's grandsons, a deaf and dumb man, who stepped forward, saw the commotion, and lobbed off Esau's head. So we're burying Jacob, and his twin brother is going to die the very same day that Jacob's being buried. Well, at that battle, Zepho was taken. And Zepho and 70 men were taken back to Egypt by Joseph. Remember, it was Joseph, all the brothers that came to bury Jacob. There was a lot of people there. Many of the men of Egypt were there. And Zepho was held in captivity for 70 years. Let's stop there because I want to tell you about the amount of people are going to come and then the magicians and conjurers. It says, and he brought with him 800 and 1,000 men. Torah doesn't have any clue how many men are here. Now, Amalek came and fought with Israel at Rephidim. Doesn't talk about how many Amalekites there were. We had 600,000 men, Gebarim, plus heads of households. We don't know how many heads of households there were. But we had 600 plus Gebarim men, spiritually born Ezra men that were with us. They came at us with 800,000 men, plus magicians and conjurers. It says, and he prepared for a battle with Israel in Rephidim. Zepho was taken captive. When Joseph died, Zepho and his 70 men escaped, and they went to Africa, Dinhabah, to the king of Dinhabah. And Zepho, son of Eliphaz, son of Esau, tried to get the king of Africa to fight with Israel, really Egypt. He was after Israel. But remember, Joseph Joseph had just died. But the king that knew Joseph was still there. But the king of Africa refused to do it. Even though, oh my goodness, these things are so integrated together. Let me continue reading because this is really, I think, an interesting note, if you allow me. It says the magicians and conjurers. Who are the magicians and conjurers? We're going to find out that is Balaam and his sons. They carried a great and severe battle against Israel. Notice, against Israel. And they carried a great and severe battle against Israel, and Yehovah delivered Amalek and his people into the hands of Moses. And Israel's seed into the hands, delivered Amalek and his people into the hands of Moses and Israel's seed, and into the hands of Joshua, the son of Nun, the Ephrathite, the servant of Moses. And Israel's seed smote Amalek and his people at the edge of the sword. But the battle was severe upon Israel's seed. We lost some men that day. Now, I want to talk about Balaam ben Beor and his brother Bela ben Beor. Bela ben Beor, first of all, ben Beor is called the Syrian. He has two sons, Bela and Balaam. Bela was the first king of Esau, Edom, first king of Edom. In fact, I think I've got, now these were the kings who reigned in the land of Edom before any king reigned over Israel's seed. Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhabah. He came from the same place in Africa that Zepho went to when he escaped. And it's going to be in this place when Zepho tries to get the king of Dinhabah to attack Israel and Egypt, that he uses one of his conjurers. Look what it says here. And amongst the sons of Angias, he's the king of Dinhabah, the king of Africa, was a young 15-year-old. Balaam, son of Beor, was his name, and the youth was very wise in understanding the arts of witchcraft. This is why I say, I think Esau, with these guys, they're the kind of the origins of the deep state. Probably the deep state is much older than that. But this is a significant portion of what's going on right now. Now, Zepho. Balaam said, attack Egypt, for surely you'll be okay. King of Egypt, or king of Africa, said, no, we're not going to do that. Zepho got mad and went to Kittim, Rome. Well, in a matter of time, Rome began to fight with the king of Africa. And the king of Africa's brother, I forget what the island was that he fought with. But over time, the king of Kittim, who is Zepho, beat the king of Africa. And when Balaam saw that the king of Africa was being defeated, he went to Zepho. So now Balaam is in Rome with Zepho. Now Zepho's going to organize a group of people to fight with Israel. He's going to get the children of the east. He's going to get Edom and probably Moab to come down to Egypt. They came at us with, I want to say 800,000 men. Maybe it was even 1 million men. And Egypt was losing. But we stepped up, 400 Israelites in Egypt, and beat off this invading army. 400 men against 800,000 men. Huge, huge army. Well, how did it go? When they lost, Balaam ben Beor went to Egypt. He went to the winner. He always goes to the winners. So he went to the winner. And in time, he became one of the king's counselors again. And Moses was born. Actually, even before Moses was born, it was Balaam who told the king of Egypt how to get rid of Israel's seed, and he told them to kill the firstborn men. Because if we can't get the adults, we'll get the children before they're born and beat them by attrition. Well, one of the things that he did, one time Moses was sitting on his mom's lap next to Pharaoh, and he took Pharaoh's crown off and put it on his head. And Balaam realized right away that that was a serious thing that he had done and suggested that the king kill Moses. Well, now Moses grows up. He's 15 years old. And he hears the story of Balaam trying to kill him. So what does he do? He tries to kill Balaam. Now Balaam's going to run to Cush, which happens to be the same place that Moses goes when he has to flee Egypt. He goes to Cush. And he fights with Cush for many, many years with Balaam inside the gates, being the head of the city. And when Moses finally breaches the gate, Balaam runs away. And where does he run? Back to Egypt. So now Moses grows up. He rules there for many years. Finally he has to leave Cush because of circumstances. Let's just call it circumstances. And he goes to Midian. And Raul throws him in prison. When he gets out of prison, he finds the staff of Moses, a rod of Elohim. We're going to talk about that today. In fact, just very shortly. And he gets the rod of Elohim. He talks to the Elohim on the mountain, the Elohim on the mountain. And the Elohim on the mountain tells him to go to Egypt. Well, he goes to Egypt, and who's there? Do you see how all these things are tied together? Now, Egypt loses. We win. What happened to Balaam? Where did Balaam go? It looks to me like Balaam went to the Amalekites. And that's how he happens to be here right now. Balaam is not a friend of Israel any more than Amalek is a friend of Israel, or Eliphaz is a friend of Israel, or Esau is a friend of Israel. It's an antagonistic war that's continually going on. They want to rule the world. Remember, Esau, he killed Nimrod because he wanted the garments, because he wanted to rule the world, Adam and Eve's garments. He wanted to rule the world. That's why he ditched his double portion, his firstborn status. Well, I'm trying to tie all of these things together for you. So now here is the Amalekites coming to fight with Israel, men of the flesh, men of the spirit, and it's going to be Israel that's going to win. Let's continue our story here. And Moses said to Joshua, choose us some men. Notice it doesn't say people, it says men. These are nashim. Here it is, enoshim. Enoshim. It's the plural form of ish. Nashim. Choose some men to go out and fight against Amalek. Ladies, don't fight. You can't have a woman even in your camp. Because if she's unclean, she'll make all the men unclean, and then Yehovah can't fight for us. See, we lose these understandings. And Moses said to Joshua, choose some Enoshim and go and fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the rod of Elohim in my hand. You know, this rod plays specific roles. We're going to talk about those roles when we go back up to the top and start reading from there. The rod of Elohim is the staff that all the Melchizedeks carried with them. You know, most Christians, they call him Melchizedek. They call him Melchizedek, the name of the man. It was actually Shem. He was the Melchizedek, the king of righteousness, or the king of the righteous. The Melchizedek. Canaan was a Melchizedek in the antediluvian world. Then Enoch. Then Methuselah. Then Noah. From Noah went to Shem. And then Eber. Maybe Eber. Maybe it went from Shem straight to Abraham. Then Isaac. Then Jacob. Remember, Jacob went to Haran. He had the staff in his hand. Came back. They said he came back with it. When Jacob died, he gave it to Joseph. Joseph was the ruler of Egypt. And when Joseph died, it was Raul. What was Raul's other name? Jethro, priest of Midian. I think priest might be wrong. Let's call him a prince of Midian. He took it with him when he left Egypt. And that's where Moses got it when he left Cush, went into the prison with Raul. And when he came out, he plucked that stick from the garden and he became the new Melchizedek. So here we are with the rod of Elohim. He was the new Melchizedek. And Moses said to Joshua, choose some men to fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the Elohim's rod in my hand. Ha Elohim. This is what it says. Ha Elohim's rod in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses said to him. And he fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Look at this. Who's Hur? Who is Hur? In one Bible dictionary, I believe it was Easton, it called Hur the husband of Miriam, Moses' sister. I can't find a single place where Hur is mentioned as the sister of Moses. They give this as the reason why they say it. 17, which we're on 17:10 right now, 11 and 12. Watch and see if you see anything about Hur being the husband of Miriam, Miriam's man. Remember, there is no word for husband. He's Miriam's man if he's her husband. So Joshua did so as Moses had said to him, and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. And so it was when Moses held up his hand that Israel prevailed. And he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands became heavy. So they took a stone, put it under him, and he sat on it. And Aaron and Hur supported his hands, one on one side and the other on the other side. And his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. Remember, Moses is an 80-year-old man. Holding your hands up with a staff in your hands would have gotten very heavy. So Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And Yehovah said to Moses, write this for a memorial in the book and recount it in the hearing of Joshua, that I may utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens. He's going to wipe out utterly blot out the remembrance. He wants to wipe out the race. Write this for a memorial in the book and recount it in the hearing of Joshua. Joshua has to make sure that this information goes forward. This tells me that Yehovah already knew that Joshua was going to take the place of Moses, even though Moses hadn't sinned by striking the rock 2 times to bring out water in Numbers 30. Oh, that's interesting. It says, and Moses built an altar and called it Yehovah is my banner. Yehovah Nisi is what it says. Yehovah Nisi. Yehovah is my banner. They held the rod of Elohim above everyone. Yeah, that's kind of like when the stick was up, Israel's going to prevail. When we exalt Yehovah, this is his staff, the Melchizedek staff, the Melchizedek rod, we're going to excel. For he said, because Yehovah has sworn, Yehovah will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. Well, we saw this happen in Samuel 15. Do you remember Samuel? It says here, remember, Samuel was the one who anointed Saul king of Egypt, or king of Israel. But remember what Yehovah says he does. But Samuel said, what then is the bleating of the sheep in my ears and the lowing of oxen which I hear? He told Saul to wipe out everything among the Amalekites, including sheep. Every human, everybody. And he brought back sheep and oxen. I should say he brought back flocks and oxen. That would include goats as well. And I think also the king he brought before Samuel. Samuel killed them both, killed them. Well, look what it says. For rebellion is as a sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity in idolatry, iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of Yehovah, he's talking to Saul, he has also rejected you from being king. Then Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandments of Yehovah and your words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Leaders have to obey Yehovah, not the people's voice. Now, therefore, please pardon my sin and return with me that I may worship Yehovah. But Samuel said to Saul, I will not return with you, for you have rejected the word of Yehovah. Yehovah has rejected you from being king over Israel. And Samuel turned around to go away, and Saul seized the edge of his robe, and it tore. So Samuel said to him, Yehovah has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today, and has been given to a neighbor of yours who is better than you. Who is he talking about? He's talking about David, the son of Jesse, the seed of Jesse. So, where do we go from here? I want to go, I think, to Yasher. Let's go back to Yasher, because we're going to talk about the rest of this in 17. That Yasher does not talk about the rock at Horeb and Israel needing water. So let's pick it up here. And when Israel's seed were in Rephidim, Amalek, the son of Eliphaz, the son of Esau, the brother of Zepho, came to fight with Israel. And he brought with him 801,000 men, magicians, and conjurers. And he prepared for battle with Israel in Rephidim. And they carried on a great and severe battle against Israel. And Yehovah delivered Amalek and his people into the hands of Moses and Israel's seed, and into the hand of Joshua, the son of Nun, the Ephrathite, the servant of Moses. And Israel's seed smote Amalek and his people at the edge of the sword. But the battle was severe upon Israel's seed. And Yehovah said to Moses, write this thing as a memorial for thee in a book, and place it in the hands of Joshua the son of Nun, thy servant. And thou shalt command Israel's seed, saying, when thou hast come into the land of Canaan, he hasn't come into the land of Canaan yet, thou shalt utterly efface the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Now look what it says. And Moses did so and took the book and wrote upon it the words of these sayings. Maybe it's, I thought I had something else about this. Let me just see if I can find it. Remember what Amalek has done to thee in the road when thou wentest forth from Egypt, who met thee in the road and smote thy rear, even those who were feeble behind thee, when thou was faint and weary. See, we were faint and weary. Why? Because we needed water. Therefore it shall be when Yehovah thy Elohim shall have given thee rest from thy enemies round about in the land which Yehovah thy Elohim giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heaven. Oh, here it is. Thou shalt not forget it. Now look what it says. And the king. We didn't have a king until Saul became king. And the king who shall have pity on Amalek, upon his memory or upon his seed, behold, I will require it from him and will cut him off from amongst his people. Does this mean that Saul got kicked out from Israel? I mean, that's one thing to not be the king anymore, but to not be able to be an Israelite anymore, he's getting kicked out from among his people. Remember, if you don't keep the Passover, you get kicked out of Israel. This is pretty serious stuff. And Moses wrote all these things in a book, and he enjoined Israel's seed respecting all these matters. All right, that finishes up 81. Now we're going to go back to the beginning of Exodus 17 and finish with 7. It says, then all the assembly of Israel's seed set out on their journey from the wilderness of Sin. Adah, assembly. It says congregation of Israel. I think we're talking to all of Israel's seed, all of the Ezra men. They left the wilderness of Sin according to the commandments of Yehovah and camped at Rephidim. See, this is why I did the last part first, because they hit us, the Amalekites, hit us on the way to Rephidim, or just as we were getting there. Now it comes out, we had no water. There was no water for the people to drink. When we're talking about the people, who are we talking about? I'm trying to give us principles for understanding Torah. Role of a man, role of a woman. Hierarchy of authority. They're all important in Yehovah's kingdom. Here, I put all the congregation of Israel's seed, all the assembly of Israel. This is all Israel's seed's assembly. It says, and Israel's seed complained to Moses and Aaron. So here's Israel's seed. This is kind of the chain of command, if you will. We have the Ger, or we have Yehovah. Underneath Yehovah is Moses. And they included Aaron in this case. I might put Aaron in between Moses and Israel's seed, but they usually have Moses and Aaron. And then they have Israel's elders. Then they have Israel's seed. And under them is their families, their wife, their kids, their servants, their ger. And the ger, they have women and children underneath them. But ladies don't complain to Moses. Israel's seed is going to complain to the elders, and the elders are going to complain to Moses. I suppose Israel's seed, in this case, right now, they are complaining to Moses. Look what it says, verse 7. Therefore the people contended with Moses and said, give us water that we may drink. So Moses said to them, why do you contend with me? Why do you tempt Yehovah? You know what? Talking to Moses is about like talking to Yehovah. He is his sent one on the earth. He's the Melchizedek, the highest authority, the highest spiritual authority on the earth at that time. It says the people contended. Why do you tempt Yehovah? Give us water that we may drink. You know, they're speaking for their wives. Their wives are mad. Their kids are thirsty. Their wives are probably saying to them, go talk to Moses. This is ridiculous. We've got to have some water. So now they're going to Moses. But these men, these people are the Ezra men, sons of Yehovah's son. You know, I think it's interesting, and most don't know even what an Ezra is. But we know that the plural form of Garim, or Ger, is Garim. But you know, there's not a plural form of Ezra. The plural form of Ezra is Ezra, Yehovah's son. This is why we talk about a male child. We don't talk about male children. And this is part of the reason why we want to do all these things and try and relate them to Jesus, because we see Yehovah's son. And we've been told that Jesus is the Son of God, not realizing that Yehovah has lots of sons. Look what it says. Then thou shalt say to Pharaoh, thus says Yehovah, my son, my firstborn is Israel. Are you Israel? You Christians? How do you become Israel? Jesus supposedly said you must be born again. He was talking about being born again before he even died. Has nothing to do with him. He told Nicodemus, are you a teacher of Israel and you don't know these things? In other words, the born again process, the second birth, is in the Torah. It's in Passover. He was talking to Nicodemus at Passover, probably one of the days of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But we miss it because we don't read John 2. Personally, I don't read any of the New Testament anymore. Haven't for years. You're learning lies. Who gave us the New Testament? The Catholic Church, folks. Get a grip. They're turning you away from Yehovah's set-apart ways by giving you a golden calf. I want a sticker on my car. I serve Yehovah, not the golden calf. Most people wouldn't even know what I'm talking about, but there might be some people who say, oh, I know what he means. But notice, Yehovah says, my son, my B'nai. No, this says son, my firstborn. Bakor is Israel. So I say to you, let my son go that he may serve me. Yehovah's son serves him. We didn't get to leave Egypt until when? Until after we became his sons at Passover. We left the next day. But if you refuse to let him go, I will kill thy son, thy firstborn. Verse 3. And the people, remember the people, we're talking about Ha'am, Israel's seed, Yehovah's son. And the people thirsted there for water. And the people complained against Moses and said, why is it that you have brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our seed? It doesn't say children, folks. It says, and our seed. Spiritually born sons. The progeny. Remember, when we talk about seed, we're talking about B'nai. This is the word right here, B'nai. It gets translated as children. Here, I can show you. All the translators want to make it children. Here, Ben. Well, still got to go further. Still got to go further. There we go. Ben. Son. Builder of the family. But we're talking about more than a son. This says our son, our sons, our B'nai. Brought us out to kill us and our B'nai and our livestock. You know what? Ladies don't own livestock. Men own the livestock. It's about the sons, the seed. Remember, the land and the seed. We don't want to lose our seed because our seed is going to inherit the land. That's the promise of Yehovah. The land and the seed, the land and the seed, the land and the seed. So Moses cried out to Yehovah, saying, what shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me. Again, who stones anybody? Do the ladies stone people? Do the ladies kill anybody? Never. Never. It's a false image. Ladies don't even hunt. No, this is the men's job. They're almost ready to stone me. So that's how we know they're men. These are men. This is Israel's seed. And Yehovah said to Moses, go on before the people and take with you some of Israel's elders. Israel's elders. He can't take all the people with him, but he's going to go and do something, and he's bringing Israel's elders with him. How many elders are there? You know, it seems to me there was a place that actually gave the number of Israel's elders. I want to say it was like 60 or so, 70 maybe, 60 sticks in my mind. But he's taking Israel's elders, not all the people. Look what he says. Take with you some of Israel's elders. Also take in your hand your rod, with which you struck the river, and go. What rod are we talking about? Again, this is the rod of Elohim. The same rod that Yehovah said when he went up to the Mount Sinai going after the lamb and talked to the burning bush who had Yehovah in it. And he said, what's that in your hand? A rod. It's the rod of Elohim. It's the Melchizedek rod. He said, you're going to do wonders with it. Well, here in Exodus 7, it says, which you struck the river. See, we got to understand, this is strike the river. And he says, and you shall strike the rock. Sometimes he's going to strike something. Sometimes he's going to hold it and speak to it. Sometimes he's going to hold it over the water, like we do at the sea. But lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. He didn't hit the water there. He just held it up over the sea. And Israel's seed shall go on dry ground across the midst of the sea. Now here, he struck the water. In Numbers 20, this is the other place that I was talking to you about. Where is this at? I don't remember where this happened. It says, take the rod, you and your brother Aaron gather the congregation together. Speak to the rock. Speak to the rock. Speak, not hit it. Speak to the rock before their eyes, and it will yield its water. Thus you shall bring water for them out of the rock and give drink to the congregation and the animals. So Moses took the rod from before Yehovah as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the assembly together before the rock. And he said to them, hear now, you rebels. You can tell he's mad. Must we bring water for you out of this rock? Then Moses lifted up his hand and struck the rock twice with his rod. What did Yehovah tell him to do? He told him to speak to the rock this time. See, there's a shadow picture here that I think is going to be relevant in the last days. And it says, and the water came out abundantly, and the congregation and their animals drank. Moses was in big trouble with Yehovah for hitting the rock instead of speaking to the rock. Why? I had some thoughts. Let's turn to Isaiah. We'll come back here. We only have a couple more verses here. Yeah, just 2 more verses. I want to go to Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah 11. Isaiah, where are you? There you are. Isaiah 11. This is talking about there shall come forth a twig, they said rod, a twig from the stem of Jesse. Who's Jesse? David's father. So we have a twig coming out of the stem of Jesse. Which was David. David was a man after Yehovah's own heart. Do you remember? And the branch shall grow. So the twig's going to grow into a branch, shall grow out of his roots, Jesse's roots. And the spirit of Elohim shall rest upon him, the rod, the branch, the male child. Oh, there's many names for that. The banner, the shepherd, his arm, Yehovah our righteousness, the watchman, the shepherds, Jeremiah 23. The spirit of Elohim shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and the fear of Yehovah. Does this sound like this could possibly be a group of men who have the same Melchizedek spirit that Moses has, that David had a heart for Yehovah? I think so. I think in the last days, there's not going to be enough rods to go around because people are going to be gathering together to these men all over the earth. I used to call them the 144,000. I think it's going to be way more than that. Because when Yehovah comes, it says, Psalms. Well, let me finish here. It says, his delight is in the fear of Yehovah. And he shall judge by the sight of his eyes. He shall not judge by the sight of his eyes, nor decide by the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor and decide with equity the meek of the earth. Look what he says now. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. He doesn't have a rod of Elohim. He's got the rod of his mouth. And with his breath, and with the breath of his lips, he shall slay the wicked. Oh my goodness. Righteousness shall be the belt of his loins, and faithfulness the belt of his waist. We're not talking about Jesus, folks. Get over your false images. You've learned lies. We're talking about the male child. Now, let me go back to where we left off. Take in your hand your rod with which you struck the river. Behold, I will stand before you there on the rock of Horeb. He's going to stand on the rock of Horeb. Is that what it says? And you shall strike the rock, and water will come out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders of Israel. Here's the rock at Horeb. Look at this. This is what it looked like. It's huge. See that man in there? There's like a little man. That's how big it is. This is a person right here. Here, I can play it for just a moment. There's somebody in there standing. Then, here it is, another picture of it. I can't do this too long. I'll get a violation from YouTube, which I've never had. Here's the rock at Horeb again. I just want to give you an idea, the size of this rock. I remember there was I want to say a mineralogist. What is that kind of person called? He was looking for oil in Midian, and he stumbled upon Sinai. This is when Sinai was first found. And there have been lots and lots of other people who have gone here and made videos about Sinai. The rock at Horeb, the cave that the Elijah cave, at Sinai itself, places where we sacrificed, slaughtered our Olah and our Shalamim, our Kata'ah, all the offerings of Yehovah were in this place. All right. Did so in the sight of the elders and Midian. So he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah. Why? Because of the contention of Israel's seed, and because they, Israel's seed, tempted. See that? Contention and tempted. This is the same two words we were talking about here, contended and tempted. They tempted Yehovah. Where'd it go? Israel tempted Yehovah, saying, is Yehovah among us or not? Well, we got through all of chapter 17. We finished the rest of Yasher 81. And next week, we're going to read 18 of Exodus. And look what it starts with. Jethro bringing Zipporah and her two sons, which are really his two sons, to him at Rephidim. But you know, it never occurred to me that Jethro didn't have to travel long at all. It was in his backyard. Remember, he was working with Jethro, sheep, when he found the burning bush. He went back to Jethro's house that night. So you see, Jethro was already in the area. He didn't have to travel far at all to bring Moses' woman and his sons back to him. Well, we're going to talk about that next week. So for now, you guys, thank you for joining me, and we'll talk next time. Yehovah bless you real good.